Everybody, welcome to this extraordinary general meeting. Apologies, General Manager, staff apologies.
Mr Mayor and Councillors, we have one apology from Councillor Spencer. Councillor Spencer's an apology for tonight's meeting based on a conflict of interest which he's previously declared in consideration of this matter, and as the item is the sole business of the meeting, he will not be in attendance.
Is there any staff apologies, General Manager?
There are none, Mr Mayor.
Excellent. Councillors, any declarations of interest?
Only the one that I just gave you, Mr Mayor, for Councillor Spencer.
Thank you. We move to the one general business item, which is GB1 Norman Griffiths, and this was called because of, at the request of Councillor Kay and Councillor Taylor, to consider and decide whether to provide a period of public notice on the review of environmental factors for the stormwater and synthetic sports fields at Norman Griffiths Oval before proceeding with construction. Call for a motion.
Mr Mayor, I have a motion that I would like to move, and I believe it's with staff. And would you like me to read it out or call for a second?
I'll let everybody read that.
Just for the people online, the motion says A, that Council notes and receives the report on the Norman Griffiths playing field. B, that in addition to construction proceeding, 1, Council hosts a workshop or workshops with key community stakeholders by the end of April to consider minor changes to design elements such as fencing, pathways, retaining walls that would not impact the design intent, synthetic field and improved drainage, to minimise the impact on the environment and in parallel with ongoing construction. 2, that participation in the workshop would be limited to a small number of representatives from each of the main stakeholder groups, and they would be given at least 3 weeks to prepare. And the stakeholder groups could include, in alphabetical order, Friends of Ku-ring-gai Environment, Friends of Norman Griffiths, Northern Suburbs Football Association, STEP, West Pymble Football Club. Point 3, sub-point 3, there would be an expectation of professional and constructive behaviour by all participants, and the core design intent, the synthetic field and improved drainage, would not be in scope. And then part C, that Council actively engages with national parks to confirm their support for the design.
Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Greg Taylor. Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you. So the Norman Griffiths Field upgrade is an important project for the sporting and local communities that the previous council committed to. When complete, it would provide an all-weather playing service and be utilised by a range of stakeholders. However, some community stakeholders feel that consultation on the environmental factors could have been handled better by council. In order to address this concern and provide an opportunity for all stakeholders, including the footballers, to engage on the final design, Council could hold a workshop or workshops to gather key community representatives, discuss the impact of environmental factors on the environment, and consider any minor adjustments to the design in parallel to ongoing construction. The decision to install the synthetic pitch and major design features such as the engineered drainage solution would not be addressed, given the advanced stage of the project, and as major changes would result in considerable waste of ratepayers' funds. Minor changes, on the other hand, are normal during construction of large projects, and the earlier they are identified, the less they cost to make. Thank you.
Councillor Greg Taylor.
I reserve my right.
Councillor Kay.
I have an amendment.
Okay, what's your amendment?
If council staff could just put it up. Would you like me to read it for the people streaming online? Sorry.
If you so desire, yes.
Okay. That construction of the stormwater and synthetic sports fields at Norman Griffith Oval be put on hold until Council receives advice from the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Services that it supports and does not have any unresolved concerns about the project.
Is there a seconder? Second, Councillor Greg Taylor. Councillor Kay.
Okay. Norman Griffiths is a project that has been in the pipeline for several years, approximately 10. Like most of us, if not all of us, I am a supporter of all sports in the local government area, and I find it extremely disappointing that some sporting groups tend to choose a different narrative. I have voted to support this project throughout the last term of council, but I do not support a flawed system and have an expectation as a councillor and a resident that due processes are followed and all information that is provided to councillors is true and accurate and all relevant information is disclosed and processes completed. I have three main areas of concern in relation to this project, which is the REF, so the Review of Environmental Factors. We had a draft version provided to us in April 2021, which referred to a splash park, a completely different document to the final REF that has been put on the Ku-ring-gai Council website late 27th of February. Councillors were advised that this document would be completed back in April 2022. It was dated the 14th of February and signed off, but only placed on the website 13 days later. To not give the community 4 to 6 weeks to assess the document would seem rather unfair. It would also be sensible in this time for the REF to have been forwarded to the National Parks and Wildlife, considering they are a stakeholder. Community consultation. This seems to be limited. The community consultation provided in March 22 did not engage with relevant environmental stakeholders and was merely an email to advise them of construct and design. Personally, I don't think this passes the pub test. Then we have my main concern, which is the National Parks and Wildlife. A critical document that was provided from National Parks and Wildlife stating concerns and non-support of the project, as well as a need for more time to review the REF, was not disclosed to councillors at the time it was written. This correspondence was dated which I have in front of me, the 3rd of March, and I had forwarded an email to John McKee, our General Manager, as well as our corporate lawyer, advising of all documentation from National Parks. Miraculously, on that same day, 30 minutes later, I get an email with that document attached from George Bonassif, one of the other directors. Now, I did request all correspondence, so to then see a letter provided and come up that actually came to me from residents, dated the 21st of the 9th, 2020, which refers to National Parks and Wildlife are in support of the upgrade of the sports field, but do have concerns regarding the construction and operation of synthetic turf field. These issues need to be considered when considering the full environmental impact of each surface. National Parks and Wildlife requests consideration of the following aspects, as well as the provision of further information. We are supportive of a plant-based turf option while ensuring all materials are sustainably sourced. We had a meeting on the October where we had made some decisions on Norman Griffith. I'm not under the belief that this letter was supplied at that time, and I may have taken a different decision. I also wanted to say that residents are pretty much up in arms at the moment about the REF being placed on the website on the 28th of March, with works to commence on the 13th of March. If it wasn't for the 28th of February, with works to commence on the 13th of March. If it wasn't for community pushback, it would have commenced on the 6th of March. It has taken council a number of draft versions, and we were advised early last year that the REF would be completed in April 2022. To not give the community a 4 to 6 week period to view a document is disappointing, to say the least. Lastly, we were told that we would have a preliminary environmental assessment, and that had been undertaken. It appears that this hasn't happened and actually doesn't exist. In my opinion, to proceed forward with a project without having National Parks and Wildlife support would be neglectful. I hope all councillors support this amendment and take this into consideration. Now, I've got a couple of questions now that my time is up, if that's okay.
Ask away.
Okay. All right, so through you, Mr Mayor, to the relevant director, which I believe is Director Watson. Okay, and this might be something that needs to be put up on the screen. So, one, can we see a copy of Council's resolution to proceed with this works, and on what date did this occur? And if I could have that pulled up on the screen.
Just so it's in the form. Just so it's in the business.
Through Mr Mayor, it's in the business papers.
Could you confirm when, please? And what date?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's in the business papers. It's dated 21st of September 2021 and then again dated 15th of February 2022.
Are we able to put this up on the screen, please?
It is in your business papers.
Okay, thank you. Next question. I think this is to Director Watson. Do we have a response from Fisheries New South Wales about the synthetic oval development, given they manage the health of waterways and creek bed? If not yet, when was Fisheries' views sought? And if not sought, why not?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the only statutory authority that has to be consulted under the SEP for this project is the SES, and they have been consulted and responded.
Thank you. Just a couple more.
As per the council report.
Thank you, Director Watson. 3, do we have support from National Parks and Wildlife to proceed? And if we do, can you table this document to this effect? Because
Through you, Mr Mayor, the letter to which Councillor Kay referred to earlier was circulated and specifically addressed in Council's report of 20th of October. The covering letter is headed Ku-ring-gai Council Norman Griffiths Sports Field Proposal for Synthetic Turf Field, and the quote which is relied upon is National Parks and Wildlife are in support of the upgrade of the sports field, but do have concerns regarding the construction and operating of the synthetic field. They go on to describe those. That is addressed in the council report in the following terms. National Parks and Wildlife Service were also in support, however they noted some environmental considerations to be incorporated into the design and ongoing operation of the site. Now I would say that those statements are almost exactly the same. It's also relevant that the BMT flood design report went to the Flood Risk Management Committee of the 16th of June 2020. National Parks and Wildlife Service were in attendance at that meeting, and that meeting, the minutes were subsequently reported to Council, but that meeting effectively resolved to support the BMT flood risk study as a basis for this project. So at the time I had the project, I would say National Parks had been consulted, and I've read their words directly. They say they are in support. Now, if they've subsequently changed their mind, the words are what the words are.
thank you. I've got 3 more and then I will pass to someone else because I've got a few extras. What consideration did Council or the authors of the REF give to the interim report of the Chief Scientist concerning artificial turf? I believe that would be you again, Mr Watson.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the only report that has been released by the Chief Scientist to date is frankly little more than terms of reference. It's the progress report headed 8th of February 2022. And it is really little more than terms of reference, which are a large part of the report. The report has been completed, has been handed to government and referred to the Department of Planning for development of guidelines. So there's frankly nothing in that report of any use or relevance to the RAF.
Okay, this next question probably flows into that. What input has council had to the Department of Planning's proposed guidelines for using artificial turf on the public playing fields?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we haven't been asked to make comment on the guidelines to the best of my knowledge. We did have an interview at the beginning of the Chief Scientist's process and had some input into that process. But because we haven't seen the report, I don't know how our input has been reflected, if at all, in that report.
Okay, and last one, I do have other questions, but I'll give other people opportunities. Was the intention of publicising the REF to elicit public comments? If so, when will they be considered?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it is not the purpose of notifying, putting the REF on the website that comments be provided. The REF process has completed. There's 5 stages in the Department of Planning's guidelines for preparation of REFs. We are now in the implementation phase. You don't take comments on a REF after the REF has been authorised. In this kind of process, you take consultation and comment where it's required in the plan development process, which is what we would say we would do. You don't take it in the REF process or the approval process, termination process. Ordinarily, no.
And just one quick, sorry. Just with the REF, is there any reason that when it was signed off on that it just didn't go to National Parks and Wildlife immediately? Because there is that 2-week lag. So it was signed off on the 14th and then went on the website the 27th, I believe, night of the 27th.
Director Banasif.
Through you, Mr Mayor, council resolution back in February stated that we were required to upload the REF, the final design, as well as the program. At that point, once the REF was signed off, we were negotiating a commencement date, so the review of environmental factors wasn't uploaded to the council website until we had agreement regarding the construction commencement date.
Would it not be good governance to forward that to National Parks and Wildlife Services at the time, considering now they're asking for more time? To me, that would have been common sense.
Through you, Mr Mayor, we did give the National Parks and Wildlife, and I don't know the exact dates, advance notice that the matter had been completed. And when we met with them late last week, they started that meeting by saying they acknowledged they were not a concurrence or referral authority for this project under the SEP.
Thank you.
Councillor Greg Taylor, a seconder.
Reserve my right at this stage, thanks.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't often do this, but I'm going to be very frank. We've done this to death, to death, to death. We've been back into council chambers on this same matter on a number of times, and even it's an interest if some of the councillors would like to review how they voted in the past on this matter, and how there's 3 particular councillors that actually voted up even putting the REF on the public website, may I say. And I believe you were one of them, Councillor Kay. But in any case, I'll move on from that. The REF has been up now for over 3 weeks. This has been given the public plenty of time to scrutinise this whole matter. At no point, and even after the public meeting we had on Monday evening, there is no gaping holes that have been pointed out after these 3 weeks. And I would feel quite confident that if there was something really wrong with this REF, or a REF that we did not even really have to have scrutinised, by the general public that something would have come out. Oh, sorry, there is one item that came out of it, and I believe that it is being addressed, is that we've got a concern with the fencing height in regarding to some birds that might fly into it through the evening that may be getting looked at. But other than that, there is nothing that has come out of this. So again, I question why we are here tonight. Now this afternoon, sorry. Again, I think just to put a little bit of cohesion into this, I've prepared some questions for Director Banasif because ultimately he's the one that's assisted in putting this together. And I think that Councillor Kay is trying to take some things out of context here this evening. So if you don't mind, Director Banasif, I'm going to put a couple of questions to you. Buckle up. Does Council engage the community when developing plans for our projects?
Director?
Mr Mayor, yes.
How are they engaged?
Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we send notifications regarding letters, emails, and advise them of the details that are on Council's webpage.
Was this done for this project?
Director?
Mr Mayor, yes.
All right, this will be an interesting one. I'm going to hark back to what I originally started with. How many times have we engaged the community?
Director?
Off the top of my head, Mr Mayor, if we're talking about engagement on a formal basis, it could be about 3 times. Talking about engagement regarding direct engagement with community members, could be thousands.
Further to this, did your team meet residents on site to discuss the concept plan?
Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor, they did.
Okay, when did this occur?
Director? Approximately?
Mr Mayor, I believe it might have been in late 2021 in developing the concept plan.
Okay. At that stage, was there a commitment to develop a community group and to keep them informed?
Director?
Mr Mayor, at that stage, we experienced a staffing resourcing shortfall, and unfortunately the establishment of the group was not followed through.
Has the community group been developed?
Director?
A list of community groups has been developed that we engage.
Okay, who are they? What groups?
Director?
The Quarry Creek Bush Care Group, the sporting groups, I believe the Hampshire Avenue Bush Care Group, and the National Parks and Wildlife Services.
Okay, one group that I've heard a lot from is STEP in relation to this. Were they part of this invitation?
Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Yep.
My apologies.
That's okay.
At the time, we met with the community to initiate the design concept. They were in attendance.
Okay. In relation to, there was a lot of questioning about National Parks Wildlife Service being consulted. I'm just going to go back over it a little bit, just to get a bit of form here. Have the National Parks and Wildlife Service been consulted?
They were on the distribution list as part of the actual engagement.
Yep. Okay. Did they respond to the notification in March 21?
Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't believe so.
So just as I want to confirm that, so they did not respond to the letter in March 2021?
Director?
Mr Mayor, just to clarify, March 2022 was when we last notified them
Okay.
with the distribution list. And at that time, we did not receive a response. We received the response obviously after we uploaded the REF.
Okay, when did we receive that?
I believe it was the 3rd of... No? I look at it somewhere here, approximately.
Director?
I believe, through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe it was early March, could be around the 3rd of March? 2nd of March, 3rd of March?
Have you met up with them since that date?
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, council staff, as Director Watson mentioned earlier, met with National Parks and Wildlife Services on the Thursday, the 9th of March. Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to continue to go here a bit. Was the concept plan communicated to the community?
Director?
Mr. Mayor, 30th of March 2022.
This one. Was the ref part of the consultation document?
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no.
Why not? Sorry.
No.
Don't mean to
Through you,
Director, yes.
through you,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I anticipated I'd be asked this question. I did take some notes. The REF was in draft format. 2, there is no statutory obligation under the EPNA Act to distribute the REF for consultation. There is no obligation on the Council's adopted community participation plan to distribute the REF.
Yep.
And there's no other council or statutory documents that states Council is required to distribute the REF for consultation.
Okay. So no requirement.
Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Excellent.
So I was to the belief that council office is committed to consulting with the community regarding the ref for a period of 4 to 6 weeks. Can you clarify that? That's what's going around?
Director?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe there's a document that has been requested through GIPA, which is part of the contract agreement between council and the contractor. Within that contract, there are 4 dot points. I believe there's some confusion regarding the relationship between those dot points. I have sent an email out to all councillors recently explaining my view on the matter. There is no contractual relationship between an REF and community engagement.
Thank you.
Leave that for the moment. Thank you.
Before we go to the next speaker, I would like to foreshadow an amendment. Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to foreshadow an amendment as well, but I guess your one goes first. I've got a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the relevant director, Director Banasif. What is the cost of delaying or putting up, what's the exact words here? The words in Councillor Kay's motion was to put the project on hold until council receives advice from National Parks and Wildlife. What is the cost of delaying the construction process?
Director, if you can answer that.
Through you, Mr.
Possible?
Mayor, that would depend on the duration of the delay. You have all been provided estimates of the delay in a confidential email that was sent on Friday, the 10th. So in essence, it's for every week, whatever's in that email is the cost of the delay.
Okay, thank you. And to clarify, wait, am I allowed to say what that figure is? Or not allowed to? No. Okay, so there is a delay cost. I would like to now speak against the amendment. Okay, so to me, there's 3 issues to be considered here. The first issue is whether or not council should have consulted with the community as a whole. The second issue is whether or not council should be consulting with National Parks and Wildlife, and to what extent? And the third issue is if there is any cause of or any cause to continue consultation, should we put the project on hold as a result? Now, the first issue, should we consult with the public on the review of environmental factors? Well, on this one, this project is done under the SEP for Transport and Infrastructure, and under that SEP, it is not a requirement for council to go out and consult with the public in general. Having said that, even though it is not a legal obligation to go out and consult with the public, Local Government New South Wales has published guidelines on how to conduct a review of environmental factors. And as part of these guidelines, step 3 is to look at the environmental impacts. Step 4 is to then consider mitigation measures. And step 5 is to then consult with stakeholders. So from my perspective, it means after we've done all the environmental impact analysis, after we've considered mitigation measures in full of the final design, then we take that out to stakeholders and consult with them. However, I need to be clear here, these are guidelines only. This is not law. So and it doesn't even specify who the stakeholders are, it just says stakeholders. So from my perspective, do we as a council need to consult with the public on the review of environmental factors? We don't have to, but it would be best practice if we had. So that's for all of us as councillors to decide. Secondly, do we need to consult with National Parks and Wildlife Service? Under the same SEP, clause 2.15, National Parks and Wildlife Service is mentioned as a specified authority. So council does have certain requirements to consult with them. Now, I know it can be argued as to whether or not we have consulted with them properly, but in a letter issued on the 3rd of March this year, 2023, that all the councillors should have received from Director Bonassif, it says that, I'm just checking time, our in-principle support for the upgrade was contingent on ongoing detailed consultation around the proposed design and management strategies to mitigate impacts to the creek, the downstream environment, and Landcliffe National Park. I feel that Ku-ring-gai Council has not undertaken the agreed consultation, and as a result, National Parks cannot offer support to the design in its current form. And I did follow up with them on the 14th of March, and I said, hey, can you please confirm whether you are now comfortable with it yet? And they sent an email, but to the effect, they're not comfortable with the design at this point. Doesn't mean that they'll never be comfortable, they just need a bit more time. So that second question is, should council be required to consult with National Parks and Wildlife? Answer is probably not, based on my reading, but the spirit of the law is it would be nice to consult with them, and it's not clear whether that has been done. The third step then is, let's say we did need to consult with the public or national parks or both. Do we put a project on hold and face quite significant costs as a result of the hold? I don't think it's necessary. If you look at the project schedule, it's going to take about 10 months. It's going to be finished in November. In the next month or two, we're just doing drainage and earthworks and demolishing certain features. Surely if we believe, surely all of us here should be comfortable with the design that has been proposed. Surely we would be comfortable with scrutiny from National Parks and Wildlife Service that they may, which they previously gave in principle support. I'm confident that they may support it going forward, but we just need their comfort. So surely we can get them to provide us a bit of feedback on everything without having to put the project on hold. Perhaps we consult with them, and in the next month or two they give us feedback. And even if we had to change the design, well, we've just been doing earthworks and drainage anyway. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. And I've just got to... Yep.
So I'd like to foreshadow that amendment, but that probably goes after the Mayor's foreshadow, right? Just to clarify.
Councillor Nye, yeah, just
Okay, sure.
taking that on note.
Do I have to present what I foreshadow with, or don't need to?
Not
Alright,
at all.
thanks.
You did ask the Director of Operations in regards to possible delay costs. I believe on your Facebook page you did post that it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think you've almost answered your own question. Is that correct?
Yes, although I don't know which hundreds of thousands I'm allowed to talk about, but yes.
That's okay. So again, Councillor and I, that hundreds of thousands which you're not quite sure of yet, it could be lots of hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially. Is that possible?
Yes, quite potentially. And it's, how do I say it? I asked the question for the benefit of the public, just as other councillors have asked questions that they already know the answer to. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Question through you to the relevant director. Was a full environmental assessment part of the community consultation in either 2020 or 2022?
So you're referring to an EIS?
No, not necessarily an EIS, any form of detailed assessment of environmental factors or environmental issues. Was there an environmental assessment performed and used as part of community consultation in 2020 or 2022?
So I just wanted to clarify that before the Director answers that. Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that question has been asked and answered a number of times, and the answer is no.
Yep.
As well as being subject to GIPR applications in which the answer was no.
Okay, thank you. Am I now able to speak to this amendment?
Yes, you can.
Fantastic. So I'm actually on balance going to speak against it because I am also uncomfortable wasting a significant amount, whether or not it's hundreds of thousands or not, of ratepayers' funds on a delay. And I think we can actually achieve some consultation in parallel with construction. However, I also strongly agree with Councillor Kay that the process to this point has been suboptimal. We could have followed a deeper process for the project. We could have consulted on a deeper level of detail rather than adopting the exempt development pathway that we adopted. And we do also appear to have perhaps dropped the ball a little with national parks. Having said that, I think we can catch up with them, and I don't think it would take that much time, and I think the work that we're going to do in the next few weeks could still be done whilst resolving any outstanding issues with national parks. I'm not comfortable wasting any more money on a delay. I'm confident that we will receive a timely response from national parks, and by then we won't have taken any actions that will preclude addressing any concerns they may have, and I will therefore be voting against this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Kay.
Okay, I have a question for Councillor Nye. Now, Councillor Nye, you had sent me an email where you have liaised directly with National Parks and Wildlife, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Just reading a smidgen of it, which it basically says, you've said they've said basically follow up. Thank you for your follow-up email. We will review the supplied information and respond if we have any further questions or concerns.
Councillor Kay, can I just hold you one moment? Councillor Taylor, your light's still on. That's okay.
Sorry.
Continue, Councillor Kay.
That's all right. This review task has been allocated with our urgent workload programming and hopefully will be completed as soon as practical. As you can appreciate, we have a number of pre-existing urgent commitments. We anticipate that this will be an order of days/week rather than weeks and months, depending on the complexity of the documents and other operational emergencies that may occur. Is that correct?
So it says we anticipate this will be in the order of days/week rather than weeks and months. So it's only a few days.
Sam, that's all you need to do. You've answered the question. You're starting to debate it.
Okay, thank you. That's all right.
So, no more lights.
Oh, no, I have one more. Sorry.
Question?
One more question through you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a question for Director Benasif. What negotiations have been had with the contractor and the commencement of works? And why did you only delay for 1 week?
Director Benasif.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, council's approach to negotiate a delay in the commencement, we started at 4 weeks. The contractor started at 1 week, we landed at 2 weeks. As part of our contract, it's based on our contract establishes two separable portions. Separal portion 1 gets you up until terminating the design, which was complete. Separal portion 2 is when liquidated damages and delay costs come into play, and delay costs are dictated by the commencement date.
Okay, and just one more quick question. Were you aware that North Sydney Council, with their Bob Campbell Oval, that they had the ref online for 4 to 6 weeks before they commenced works?
Through you, Mr. Mayor? No.
Relevance?
Yes. Councillor Smith, yes. Relevance, I'm not quite sure what North Sydney's, what they do is relevant to our situation.
Mr. Mayor, it's a direct parallel.
Again, that's not for you to debate, it's for me to answer. I don't see the relevance there, so I'm going to disallow that question.
Okay, that's fine. That's up to you.
It's okay.
Sorry, my last question. Now, you had the ability to call an extraordinary meeting before construction commenced on Monday the 13th. Is there any reason why this did not happen?
As you would have read the various sections, it is up to the Mayor to call the meeting.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Watson, is there a clarification in regards to the National Parks and Wildlife Services letter?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, when I was answering other questions earlier about consultation, I said that National Parks and Wildlife Service was not a referral agency for this project. Councillor and I referred to clause 215 of the Transport SEP. That talks about specified development and specified activities. And none of the references in there to activities or authorities require National Parks Authority or reference in this case. 2A is land adjacent to land reserved under the Act to be acquired, or development of land in C1 National Parks reserves, and this doesn't apply to in either of these cases.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Smith, you wish to...
Mr. Mayor, have we had 2 for and 2 against him?
There's no further lights, and I'm quite happy to put the amendment. So we have Councillor Kay's amendment on the screen. All those in favour? That is Councillor Kay and Councillor Greg Taylor. Those against? Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Wheatley, Smith, Ward, Lennon, Nye and Pettit. That amendment is lost. I have a foreshadowed amendment, and that is the officer's recommendation, which is that Council receive and note this report. And I seek a seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor Smith. Councillors, we have a fairly in-depth report, some 400 odd pages, in regards to Norman Griffiths and the ref. Within that ref, we have heard nothing from anybody at the forum. There were no speakers highlighting any glaring issues with the ref that has now been on the website for heading into 3 weeks. 72 pages does not take 4 to 6 weeks to read. 72 pages would take you 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You might want to reread it a number of times and you're done. It's not a long document. Our business papers have 400 pages. The ref has 72. We have not received a huge amount of emails, if any, from the wider community saying that the ref has glaring holes or issues with it in this 3 weeks. It is probably one of the best refs that Council could receive. Director Banasif, do you see any issues with the ref?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't see any issues with the ref.
Director, I noticed that the ref review has version 8. Is this a small number of versions or is it an extraordinary number of versions? Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is an extraordinary number of versions.
So the review of environmental factors report has been basically reviewed 8 times to get to this version. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, frustratingly, it has been 8 times.
So, Director, reviewing it 8 times before we get to the final version, would that delay the ref being brought to council and being able to be posted on the website?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Director, those that reviewed the ref, are they highly qualified and are you comfortable with what they have done?
Mr. Mayor, I am satisfied that they have the qualifications, and I'm satisfied with their review. I must commend staff that they have gone through that REF with a fine-tooth comb at every draft version.
With the ref that's been produced, was that done as an arm's length transaction?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, if staff hear of any issues with the ref, I am sure the Director would take those issues on board. Director, would that be the case if suddenly in a few weeks' time somebody come up with an issue with the ref, and would you take that on board?
Absolutely.
So therefore, we don't have a time frame for community feedback to be given on the ref in an informal way. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. The ref will be on council's websites throughout the period, the duration of the project. At any point in time we have any concerns, it is our responsibility to take on that feedback and address it accordingly.
Thank you, Director. Director, are there any safeguards in regards to Aboriginal or heritage items within the ref?
There are. I can't quote the clauses, but they are in the section 19. Could be around section 19, Mr. Mayor, possibly 20.
While you're looking at it, are there any also safeguards in regards to contamination which might be found on site?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor.
Director, do you see any safeguards that we need that aren't listed within the ref?
Mr. Mayor, as I mentioned earlier, this is a comprehensive document. It's been through 8 drafts. I haven't come across in my time in local government REF that is more detailed, so I can't see or envisage anything else that hasn't been allowed for in this document.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Smith as seconder.
Mr. Mayor, I might reserve my right for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will be speaking against this amendment. I agree with Councillor Smith that we need to get on with it. And I also agree with him that there is no point in revisiting the core design decisions for Norman Griffiths. However, as he also pointed out, the community has already identified a small potential improvement opportunity in the fence at either end of the field. There may be other minor improvement opportunities that we discover through the life of this project, through the construction period of this project. And I believe it would be better if we flush them out now with some engagement. I also think that it would rebuild trust and the relationship between council and important stakeholder groups if we engaged in a genuine way, in a constructive way. I'll be voting against this amendment because I believe we have one last opportunity to do a little bit of a better job of the process of engagement with the community on environmental factors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Just before I go to Councillor Nye, Director, the fence was mentioned there. Are we talking about the fence in regards to the trees and usage? Has that been consulted on?
Mr. Mayor, there was a concern from the community regarding the loose balls that fly over into the bushland. As a result of the community feedback and concerns, we have designed I believe it's a 6 metre fence to ensure that the balls stay out of the bushland and people retrieving the ball stay out of the bushland.
So with this community consultation, we actually got to an agreed height for this particular fence. Is that the case?
Through the community consultation, it was a barrier. The height was based on our standards.
Thank you. Director Watson, is supplementary.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when that matter was raised earlier this week, my staff did follow up the matter of bird strike on fencing, and they couldn't find any literature in that respect. So it was raised as an issue, it wasn't raised as a change, and it's not necessarily a change we would support. And frankly, it's probably an installation that will go in whether or not this was a turf or synthetic field.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Nye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to do something that members of the public might find difficult to understand, but I'll explain it. I'm going to speak, although I am in support of the words that are there, I'm going to speak against this amendment. Now, first of all, it's important to note, I do have a foreshadowed motion, amendment. My foreshadowed amendment actually has those words as point A of my foreshadowed amendment. It's just that in the foreshadowed amendment, there were a few additional points which would have given the public
Point of order,
comfort.
are we speaking about the amendment that's up here? Or are we
I think
speaking
you're,
about the
yes, you're
foreshadowed?
drifting off
Yep,
topic
okay.
there, Councillor
So
Nye.
the thing is, while I am okay with the wording here, it could have been better, and we have two votes here. The first vote is whether or not to turn this amendment into the motion that we are going to vote on. Because I prefer a different version of the wording, I'm going to vote against. But when this does become, or if or when this does become the motion, I'll probably be voting in support of it because I am okay with the wording. I just believe that there is a better way of doing this. I haven't had the opportunity to present it to the public yet, but I'm just going to say and encourage people to vote against this amendment. In the hope
Point of order, we keep referring back to another amendment that we're not shouldn't be discussing at the moment. It's this amendment that we're speaking about.
Yes, you are drifting back onto something which we haven't actually come to the position of dealing with.
I was about to finish, and we would have finished already had I not been interrupted. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Mr. Mayor, on that note, I would like to speak in support of this motion. Amendment, foreshadowed amendment. Sorry.
You're right.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to speak in support of this. I think this afternoon here, we've actually clarified, just what the only point that I actually really got out of the public forum, other than they weren't happy with the decision, was the fence, and that was because of public consultation. We ended up with a 6 metre fence. So I can see that we've been going through it, and the ref really doesn't have any issues. So again, I question why we're here this afternoon, why we can't move on, why we can't do what we said we're going to do many a times prior, and just get on with it and build a synthetic field that children can actually play sports on. I think it's important here as councillors that we take that seriously and we don't play around with it. And if we're serious in supporting it and actually getting a field that can be played on, that we move forward with it as it stands. So again, for those reasons alone, I'm prepared, I'm happy to support this motion and move forward, and let's get on with it. We'll note it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillors, we now have 2 for, 2 against, so I'm quite happy to call for the vote. And that is the amendment on the screen, which is the officer's recommendation. All those in favour of the amendment, that is Councillors Wheatley, Smith, Ward, Lennon, Pettit. Those against? Councillors Kay, Alec Taylor, Councillor Nye, Councillor Taylor. The amendment now becomes the motion. Councillor Taylor is mover of the original motion. Would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I strongly agree that we need to get on with this. I don't think we should delay it. I think we could have done a better job of community engagement on this project. I would like to hold us to a higher standard than our statutory obligations. I think we can hold ourselves to a higher standard. Getting a report on the project is fine. I think we're missing an opportunity. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. We now vote on the motion, which is the officer's recommendation. The time for debate is over. So all those in favour of the motion, that is Councillors Wheatley, Smith, Ward, Lennon, Nye, Pettit. Those against? Councillors Kay, Councillor Alec Taylor, Councillor Greg Taylor. The motion is carried. And the meeting is closed.